Welcome to Political Beatdown. I'm Ben Meiselas, of course, joined by Michael Cohen. Where do we even begin? Should we begin with the fact that in some of the last 7 national polls, Donald Trump is getting his ass kicked? You have it right there. Civics Ledger, FAU, The Economist YouGov, which take a look at The Economist YouGov, by the way. Donald Trump was previously up +3. And that's shifted now to Vice President Kamala Harris up 2. Now, I'm not one who dwells on polls all that much, but what I do care about, Cohen, are trends. And when you see a trend heading in a direction, not one poll, not cherry picked, but all of them, then all of them in the battleground states, and then massive movements within the same type of polling firm. I just had Simon Rosenberg, who was one of the kind of foremost people pushing back on the bogus red wave narrative in the 2022 midterms. And he said, this polling's wrong, that polling's wrong. Focus on the trends, focus on what's really happening, on the ground, and don't cherry pick this poll or that poll. It's definitely, Michael Cohen, we're seeing an important trend here. Also, Donald Trump, that National Association of Black Journalists event, then in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, gave the worst interview, worst speech I've ever seen, not just in politics, but in my whole life, including elementary school presentations, middle school presentations, high school presentations. It was the worst. And while it is getting a lot of attention for how bad it was, it deserves way more attention for how bad it was. Michael Cohen, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm hanging in there, my brother, and I'm thankful for all the brigaders that are with us, as always. The way I saw it, when I watched this interview, the first thing that came to my mind, and I'm sure that it came to yours and all of our brigaders' minds, including the trolls that we have on, the MAGA trolls, is why is Donald doing this, right? Who is it that told him that they think that this is going to end up working out favorably for him? I have no idea. It's got to be Don Jr. again, or maybe Peter Thiel, the same 2 yo-yos that stuck him with Shady Vance. I'm sitting there, I'm saying to myself, as I was listening to the very opening of this, Ben, if you would have taken Donald out of it and told me that this was David Duke who was making the statements, I would turn around and I would say, yeah, it makes perfect sense. It was so on par with racist tropes, with white supremacy, with Klansman ideology. The whole thing was just filled with these sort of tropes. And I'm saying to myself, Donald, what the fuck did you expect? What did you expect they were going to ask you? What's your favorite burger? How many do you eat at Mar-a-Lago a week? Right? Well, what's your favorite golf course that you own? What did you think they were going to ask you? You thought this was another Sean Hannity interview? The answer, I was so blown away, Ben. Join me for a second, Ben, because I need to see your reactions as I go this. So I managed to get a hold of the transcript for the NAJB, and I only printed out the first few pages of it because I knew that you and I were going to have to actually talk about it. So in the opening, the interviewer turns around and says, as journalists, we have opportunities like these, both to inform our reporting, but also to help voters understand the choices that they face in a consequential and historic election year. NABJ has partnered with PolitiFact to fact check this conversation in real time. You can access the feed on social media using hashtag NABJFactCheck, and the hashtag is NABJFactCheck. Okay, so we have a lot to go to, and we do not want to waste any time. So let's bring out the former president of the United States, the Republican nominee for president, former President Donald Trump. Snap, snap, snaps. Okay. Mr. President, we so appreciate you giving us an hour of your time. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. Fair comment, right? Address the elephant in the room. You can't turn around and ask him a softball question. A lot of people did not think it was appropriate for you to be here today. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they were not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe Black district attorneys. You've attacked Black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking Black supporters to vote for you, why should Black voters trust you after you've used language like that? And so, Ben, the best Donald Trump could do in responding, well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question so in such a horrible manner. The first question, you don't even say hello. How are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they are fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. Ben, I need to ask you, as I just continue for a second, what the hell is he talking about? Again, did he turn around and think that they were going to give him a Sean Hannity softball question about, how are you doing? How are you holding up? How is your ear? What did they think that he was going to ask? Any thoughts on that?
Well, look, in a normal political environment where corporate media does their job, Donald Trump is disqualified right there. He's out. The moment he said, I have never been asked a question in such a horrible manner, you don't even say hello and hi to me, you're ABC, you're fake news, that should be it. I mean, there was once a time, Michael Cohen, where people would spell potato wrong, and that would be the end of their career. Howard Dean shouted in a weird tone, and that was the end of his run for the presidency. I mean, when you see this, this is not normal behavior at all. And I think Donald Trump went in there like the malignant narcissist sociopath that he is. And I think that he thought that it was not going to be Rachel Scott asking the first question, but it was going to be Harris Faulkner from Fox, who was on the panel, because she was giving him softballs. And Rachel Scott got the first question, I think, because of the controversy of inviting him. And then it went off the rails from there, but it went off the rails because Trump is off the rails. The questions were fair. Trump is off the rails, which is why there were some people who were saying, should you invite him to that in the first place? And my response is, if you handle it the way Rachel Scott does and did, I thought she did an exceptional job in asking the right question so people could see Donald Trump like that. But if you approached it like Harris Faulkner and gave the softball interview, then that is meaningless and it just serves as propaganda.
I mean, he goes on. And the reason why I think it's important that we not allow the comments that were made by Trump, I don't want to interpret them in my words. I can go on and I can basically rattle off a couple of them, but it's not in his words. It's not in his language. And this is what I believe that the Harris campaign, that Democrats need to do. We need to use Donald Trump's words. So while I am repeating them, I'm repeating them for effect. We cannot ever allow somebody like this near the White House ever again, not even on a tour. Not even on a tour. The racist tropes. Imagine what a second term would mean. It would mean included increased divisiveness and racism and hatred and so on. He goes to say, and this is the greatest. I think this made me laugh my ass off. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country, including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tom Scott. I'm sorry, with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, right? Of course, employing the name of one black follower of his that's there on the stump, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much. And you know, when I say this, historically, black colleges and universities were out of money. I mean, the reason I'm bringing this up again, he is all over the spectrum. If the spectrum is 0 to 10, he went from a 1 to a 9 in the split second. That's not what they're asking him. They're not asking him what's the reason. But let me just go on. They were stone cold broke, and I saved them. And I gave them long-term financing. Where and how? I mean, I'm not aware of this, and I kind of read everything, and nobody else was doing it. What? I mean, it's like, I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that, why you would ask a legitimate question. Do you see what? Yes, Trump is an idiot, but it goes on. And let me go a step further. He doesn't even know when to shut up. He doesn't know when he already stuck his foot up his ass. Instead, right? He's got to really bring it up there so his pinky toe tickles his tonsils. I mean, he goes on. He goes, I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, really? You don't know who your opponent is now? I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense, which means what? Which means what? What are you trying to say? I mean, he goes on to say that this is the best part so far. Just so we understand, I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was wrong. I think it's a very nasty question. I have answered the question. I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer. That's my answer. For you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work in such a horrible manner, I think it's a disgrace. I really do. I mean, I just thought this response to the first question out of the gate is so telling in terms of it goes beyond narcissistic being a pathological liar. It goes way beyond that. It is a complete detachment from reality. No, Donald, you are not the greatest president for the black community since Abraham Lincoln. You are not. All right. In fact, neither is Joe Biden. But if you are here, Joe Biden is here. Let me be very clear about that. And the fact that you keep throwing that out over and over and over and over again, what are you trying to do? And I'm going to give you all the answers, my brigaders. What he's trying to do is to repeat the lie again and again and again as often as possible and have his sycophantic acolytes out there doing the same to rewrite history, because his belief system is something he's been very, very successful at doing. The more you repeat the lie, the more the lie is repeated, the more the lie becomes the truth. Okay? Let me be very clear about that. And that's what this is all about. Whoever told him that he should go to this thing and answer questions, this is the way. What Rachel Scott did is the way that Joe Biden should have done it. And as great as Rachel Scott was, and I give her an 8 out of a 10, I give her an 8, maybe even an 8.5. Kamala Harris will be a 10. She will be a perfect 10 on this because she will go balls to the wall if, in fact, Donald has the guts, which I don't think he will, come September to sit down for that debate.
Donald Trump's already canceled that September debate, and Vice President Kamala Harris says, look, Donald, you want to make all of these comments? Okay, say it to my face. It was interesting. Sean Hannity and others on Fox tried to use the National Association of Black Journalists event to say, you see, that's why Donald Trump needs to cancel the debates or any further debates with Vice President Kamala Harris. And it's like he's already unilaterally canceled it, but Trump is scared of her, Michael Cohen. Like, we shouldn't mince our words. Donald Trump wakes up, goes to sleep, and is terrified of her. And now he spends the entire day posting images of her with the Indian side of her family and then saying she's not black. And that's what he's going with over and over again. And he goes, "Thank you, Kamala, for the nice picture you sent me from many years ago. Your warmth, friendship, and love of your Indian heritage are very much appreciated." It's a very creepy message, and it's the message of an abuser also, though. It's more than just racist, which it's like, how could he be more than just racist? It's racist, but that's what like rapists say. Like, that's like a weird abuser, stalker, thank you for these lovely photos. It's really creepy stuff also.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted just to chime in for a second on that photo and then just say, again, if that doesn't tell you all you need to know, and the fact that, and can we go back for a quick second to the poll, to that slide that you put up? 7 new national polls. You got Harris up by 4 in the civics. You have her up by 3 in Ledger. FAU by 2, Econ, YouGov, which is 2, Redfield, Wilton, 2, Angus Reid, 2, Morning Consult, 1. Reason I bring this up. Can somebody please explain to me why it's within the margin of error for where we're at? Trump is an idiot. Let's just all acknowledge that. How many times have you heard me say he's racist, he's sexist, he's misogynistic, he's xenophobic, he's homophobic, he's Islamophobic, and he's an anti-Semite to boot? And now that you turn around and you heard it from the horse's mouth, you heard it right from the ass's mouth himself. You can't say this is Michael Cohen now saying something and then putting words into Donald's mouth. This is once again Donald on television during this NABJ conference, turning around and saying things that are, again, batshit crazy. And I'm just trying to figure out, Ben, how is it that we're still within the margin of error for this election? How is it not that Kamala is not up by 20 points? That this election is already over before it started? And I understand that Harris is winning. Don't get me wrong. I am a believer. I've called the last 4 elections correctly and almost 100%, almost 100% for the state. So I feel very confident that Kamala's got this. But my question is, how is this even within the margin of error for these polls when you have somebody who says the things that Donald Trump says, and they are so revolting? They should be revolting to every single American. All right? Not just if you're black, not just if you're a woman, not just if you're a black woman, but it should be every single person of every race, creed, color, gender, whatever. Because what he says is so un-American, and to go ahead and to have him in a race to be president of the United States again says something about us. It says something very badly about us.
It does, and we'd probably need an episode that would last 2 to 3 hours where we can look at the historical origins of the memo post-Nixon that Roger Ailes created to have a right-wing propaganda network to permit lawlessness. Roger Ailes saw the direction that the nation was headed and needed a propaganda network to lie to the people, to basically brainwash people, to avoid what happened to Nixon when you had the Fourth Estate actually do its job. And on a bipartisan way, we could agree to objective reality. So that started, Michael Cohen, in the 1970s. So where Fox is today in 2024, where it was in the 1990s, was part of a generational plan. The same thing with the Federalist Society. And I think that people who believe that our democracy would last forever and we believe that Roe v. Wade was the law of the land, I think we took for granted the fact that these freedoms would always be here. Meanwhile, you had a propaganda network building. You had the Federalist Society growing and picking out the J.D. Vances of the world and people like that and elevating them ultimately up to the Supreme Court so that you could ultimately have incongruous outcomes where if you actually go through the issues, Michael Cohen, 70% of America, 75% of America agree on issues of gun control and climate and women's reproductive rights and wages and agency stuff and healthcare. I could go on and on throughout the list, how veterans should be treated. Yet you see polls that are very evenly divided. And what's to account for that is, I think, the phenomenon that I just described, which was generational. What we want to build here with Political Beatdown, with the Midas Mighty, with the Midas Touch Network is, look, we have a job to do each and every day when we wake up. Rapid response, we got to put on a show every day. But we have to be planning also generationally to make sure that our freedoms are protected here in the United States. So speaking of Roger Ailes, let me show you this. Let's go back to the 1990s, an interview with Roger Ailes and Donald Trump. Okay, Roger Ailes and Donald Trump. And in this interview with Roger Ailes, Donald Trump contrasts his casinos with ones on Indian reservations. And Trump says his casino is great for the country, but Indian gaming will cause the greatest single crime wave in the history of the country. It's the same exact language. It's the same template. And Fox pushed that over and over again. Here, let's play this clip. Let me show you.
Atlantic City's way up from last year, way up from the year before. It's having the best year it's ever had. And I don't say it's great for the country, but, you know, more and more you're seeing this. I will say this. I think the greatest crime wave in this country is going to be caused by the Indian gaming. I think it's totally out of control. I don't think it's properly supervised. The politicians are doing a tremendous disservice to what's going on. I mean, the great crime wave, the Al Capone crime wave of this time, of this generation, is going to be caused, in my opinion, by what's happening on the Indian reservations with respect to what I consider to be unsupervised gaming.
It's the same exact thing. But occasionally people...
let me just explain to you what he's talking about there, because it needs to be put into context. At that time, his casinos were failing. And he could talk about Atlantic City was doing great and so on. He was not. And we know this because he had filed a Chapter 11 reorganization 3 or 4 times. What he's referring to is the fact that the Indian gaming do not pay taxes. And so all the profit that they make is profit. Whereas in his casinos, any profit that's made, he pays taxes on. Plus, he has the unions that he has to deal with. So he saw it as a disadvantage to the system. And he wanted them to shut down. This is what he wanted. He wanted them to shut down the Indian gaming reservations, like the ones in Connecticut and so on, because he felt that he was not able to compete, or that they were getting a leg up over standardized gaming, despite the fact that people like Steve Wynn or MGM or, you know, guys like Tillman Fertitta with Golden Nugget, they were all killing it at the time. Donald Trump is just a bad operator, when it came to casinos, plain and simple. I mean, just think about how many casinos do you know that go under? And the answer is very, very few.
Well, at that time, you had Kirk Corrigan, MGM. He was crushing it at that time, and Donald Trump was losing all that money. Here was another moment. This moment of this committee hearing that Donald Trump attended in 1993, though, so reminded me of the type of language that he's always been using, but specifically we see it more and more right now against Vice President Kamala Harris. Let me show you this one right here, because when I watch some of the stuff in the past, you really see that it's prologue for what we see right now. Here, let's play this clip.
Is this you discussing Indian blood? We're going to judge people by whether they have Indian blood, whether they're qualified to run a gaming casino or not?
That probably is me, absolutely. Because I'll tell you what, if you look at some of the reservations that you've approved, you, sir, in your great wisdom have approved, I will tell you right now, they don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like to Indians. Now, maybe we say politically correct or not politically correct. They don't look like Indians to me, and they don't look like Indians to Indians, and a lot of people are laughing at it, and you're telling how tough it is, how rough it is to get approved. Well, you go up to Connecticut, and you look. Now, they don't look like Indians to me, sir.
Thank God that's not the test of whether or not people have rights in this country or not, whether or not they pass your look test.
Depends whether or not you're approving it, sir.
No, it's not a question whether I'm approving it. It's not a question whether I'm approving it. Mr. Trump, you know in the history of this country where we've heard this discussion before, they don't look Jewish to me.
Oh, really?
They don't look Indian to me. They don't look Italian to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a test for whether people could go into business or not go into business, whether they could get a bank loan. You're too black. You're not black enough.
So now compare that, Michael Cohen.
That's
so
the
now.
Point. By the way, that's the point of what he was doing at the NABJ. All right, Kamala Harris is not black enough for him. All right, which is why he's trying to run on this concept that she's not black at all, but rather Indian. There's nothing that Donald Trump is saying today that, Ben, you and I can't find a clip on something that Donald has said and done before. It's why he knows absolutely nothing about DEI. And when it was brought up, again, by Rachel Scott, the first thing he says, define it. He doesn't even know. He doesn't even know what it stands for. He doesn't understand what it's all about. And it's not that he can't understand it. It's because he doesn't give a shit to understand it, because it doesn't benefit him at all.
It's exactly why, though, I wanted to show that clip from 1993 and then this clip from July 31st, 2024, the one that you just referenced here, Jeremy.
Follow-up, sir, and then we'll move on to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first Black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition of
Sir,
that.
I'm asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me, if you
I
would.
just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say, no, I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She has always
But
identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that
I think somebody should look into that too when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct
Hostile, nasty tone, he says. And then he does that weird thing too where he like talks like a baby, where he goes, when she said she was black. there's so many aspects even within the racist answer that deserve extra attention as well of this pathology right here. Anyway, I want to talk more with you, Michael Cohen, about that. I want to remind everybody about our Patreon, patreon.com/political beatdown, patreon.com/political beatdown. Michael Cohen, let me give you some data. Let me give you a stat. The past 48 hours, there have been 25 million views on the Midas Touch YouTube network. That's more than Fox. That's more than MSNBC. That's more than CNN. I'll give you another number. 4 billion. Over 4 billion views in the past few years on the Midas Touch YouTube channel. The only other program right now that's sometimes beating the Midas Touch network in all categories is the Olympics. And that is thanks to the Midas Mighty community and the Beatdown Brigaders. And get this, we're not funded by outside investors. There's no one out there pulling the strings. Patreon.com/political beatdown is how we, raise money for this network. It's how we are able to keep building this network. So that's one of the ways to do it. Patreon.com/political beatdown. Check that out. And also, we should note as well that Michael Cohen, your YouTube channel is soaring. It's at the Michael Cohen Show on YouTube. You're on your way to 1 million subscribers. 30 days, you got past 100,000 subs, and that's continuing.
And I think I'm at 115,000 already.
Make sure everybody you subscribe there. We still have a lot of show. Don't go anywhere. Check out our pro-democracy sponsors who also make this show possible. We'll be right back.
If the beginning of summer has you feeling farmers market vibes like I do every time I pass Union Square, look no further than Green Chef, the first certified organic meal kit company. It brings the flavors of the farmers market to you with fresh, seasonal organic produce in every box, plus premium proteins like organic eggs, sustainable source seafood, and antibiotic and hormone-free chicken. I mean, all of these get delivered right to your door. Plus, you don't have to guess what to make with your farm fresh items. I mean, with Green Chef's easy-to-follow recipes and pre-measured and prepped ingredients, you'll be serving up a restaurant-worthy meal in no time. Green Chef contributes to a healthy lifestyle with easy and delicious menu recipes like fresh seasonal salads and grain bowls. I mean, they say you are what you eat, so why not eat the best? And Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for clean eating. Let me say that again. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for clean eating. And let me tell you about the convenience. First of all, you have to try these unique ingredients and the unexpected flavor combinations to keep you clean, routine fresh from different dietary preferences like keto, Mediterranean, and more. And the convenience and the variety that you get with Green Chef, it goes beyond dinner recipes. I mean, easily add items to your weekly box from Green Market. That's the Mindful Eater's one-stop shop for high-quality, carefully curated goods. So when I looked online for options, I saw this and I was hooked. It said, what's better than bacon in your salad? And I'm saying, I don't know, what? Bacon plus shrimp in your salad. There's the answer. So listen, my friends, go right now to greenchef.com/beat50 and use code BEAT50, that's BEAT, the number 50, to get 50% off. You listen to what I'm saying? 50% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. So go to greenchef.com/beat50 and use code BEAT50 to get 50% off plus 20% off your next 2 months. So order your Green Chef meal today, the #1 meal kit for eating well. It's hot outside, and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. If you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend that you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA, and they use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so that you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. Miracle sheets are luxuriously comfortable without the high price tag of other luxury brands. And you know what? They feel as nice, if not nicer, than sheets used by some 5-star hotels. Using silver-infused fabrics inspired by NASA, Miracle-Made sheets are thermoregulating and designed to keep you at the perfect temperature, again, all night long, no matter the weather, so that you get better sleep every single night. Stop sleeping on bacteria. Bacteria can clog your pores, causing breakouts and acne. I mean, sleep clean with Miracle. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7%, get a look, 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. So there's no more gross odors too. Go to trymiracle.com/beat to try Miracle-Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code BEAT, B-E-A-T, at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save, get a load of this, an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. Now upgrade your sleep with Miracle-Made. And go to trymiracle.com/beat and use the code BEAT to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40%. Again, that's trymiracle.com/beat to treat yourself. And thank you, Miracle-Made, for sponsoring this episode.
Welcome back. Political Beatdown. Patreon.com/political beatdown.
True, but then, am I wrong? What's better than bacon in your salad? Yeah, bacon and shrimp. I mean, seriously, it's like my favorite thing, a salad with bacon and shrimp in it. When I go to Chopped, I mean, I'm like, oh yeah, can I have some of that shrimp and put in a lot of bacon in there? You know, by the way, I didn't realize that bacon is actually good for you. No, it's not.
Cohen really gets, just so you know, Cohen really gets into the ad reads.
Oh, you know I do.
And sometimes Cohen
and by
does
the way,
ad
the sheets are very good to wash. Von Schitzenpants actually told me that.
Let me show you what else Donald Trump's been posting. You know, he's selling new sneakers. So he previously sold those ugly gold, fake red bottoms, fake gold. Then he sold the assassination edition sneakers, like actually sold assassination attempt sneakers. Now he's selling as well Bitcoin sneakers. There they are, and he's promoting that. The Trump, it says crypto president on them. They are incredibly ugly. And he says, go have fun. Go to gettrumpsneakers.com before they are gone. I mean, how bizarre can you? I mean,
it's not bizarre. It's not bizarre. It's not bizarre. Donald Trump is for sale. You've heard me say this 1,000 times. He sold pardons. He sold nuclear secrets. He sold everything. In fact, if he could, he would have taken half the paintings and half the furniture out of the White House and sold that too. He doesn't care about any of this stuff. It's all about the mighty dollar. I mean, he's got his, some of his biggest supporters. He's got the Winklevoss brothers that are there. That's where this Bitcoin sneaker is now coming from. Listen, if you go back in time, you will hear Donald talk about how all of this crypto is a scam. It's a complete and total scam. It's predicated on nothing. It's based on the air. It's being manufactured and manipulated by just a couple of people who will ultimately dump it. These are the things that Donald used to say. But all of a sudden, he needs the money, right? And so in comes the billionaire class. And by the way, I don't blame them for what they're doing. But what I am doing is I am warning each and every one of our followers. And Ben, I ask you and everybody else to pass this message along. Donald Trump is for sale, and America will be for sale as well. So when people say, oh, well, I have to vote for Donald because I'm, pro-Israel, Israel will be for sale, as is Ukraine when Putin comes forward and provides Donald with some financial benefit for him, he will turn around and he will cease helping Ukraine with anything, financial, munitions, etc. All right. And he will allow Russia to walk straight through. And now all of a sudden, once they finish with that, they're on their way to Poland, which of course is part of NAFTA. He doesn't care. He's not going to care about that. He's going to, I'm sorry, NATO. He's going to turn around and he's just going to say, you know what? We're out. We're out of NATO, which is something he talked about before. And I don't know why people just don't see the writing on the wall, which brings me right back to where we've already gone twice, which is that the clip showing the different polls. I don't get it. I just don't understand how it's still within the margin of error. We know the damage he's going to do, and yet we close our eyes, thinking that by closing our eyes, by doing that like you do with a child, and you go peekaboo, that all he can't see, nobody can see, and so on. Why are we going down to Donald's mentality? Why are we degrading ourselves? We need to stand up. We need to fight like hell. And when I say fight like hell, I'm talking about at the ballot box. We need to make sure every single American who is capable of voting is registered to vote and votes Democrat, votes blue, straight up and down the entire ticket, plain and simple, because that's the only way that we're going to stop this bullshit once and for all.
You know, one of the points that you made earlier in the week, I was saying, well, why is Donald Trump, doing that? And you're like, because, Ben, he doesn't have any policy to talk about. So all he wants to talk about are things like whether it was the bullet versus the shrapnel or a piece of glass that hit his ear in Butler, Pennsylvania. Because for him, he can say bullet, bullet, bullet versus what's your health care plan, Donald? What are you really going to do to protect Social Security? What's your plan regarding Medicare? What's your infrastructure plan that you promised you were going to roll out but failed to? Remember when you said you were going to have a plan that was better than Obamacare, better than the Affordable Care Act, and then did nothing?
And you said the same about immigration. What's your immigration plan? How did it go?
His plan was to destroy.
Right.
You have to think about it, right? Destroy the bipartisan bill that would have done more to help the situation on the border than ever before. Donald Trump ordered MAGA Mike to kill a bipartisan border deal whose lead negotiator was the very conservative senator, Republican from Oklahoma, James Lankford. And Trump said, nope, Lankford, you may have devoted your whole life to this. President Biden led these bipartisan negotiations. Biden's a great negotiator, actually. I mean, look at him bringing the hostages back, which Trump did not do when Trump was in office. Trump was asked,
and with somebody who he calls, his close friend, his ally, my pal, who I'm writing love letters to. Right? He'll do it.
This is what Donald Trump previously said right here, Michael Cohen.
Right?
He said,
Putin will do that for me, but not for anyone else. Well, guess what? Once again, Donald, wrong. And I mean, look, I want to say it now for the fourth time, because I think, Ben, it's important that we just keep hammering the same thing home. How? Why? Why are the polls even as close as they are? Why are we still within the margin of error? Do you not see that every single thing that this man utters out of his mouth is either inaccurate or just plain straight up bullshit?
Well, I'll give you an example. Like, let's take today, for example, right? President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris bring these hostages home. Vice President Kamala Harris surging in the polls. When she gives speeches, she's talking about issues. She's talking about protecting women's reproductive rights. She's talking about things like the border. She's saying, if you were to elect me, I'm going to make sure we push forward the bipartisan border bill that Donald Trump killed. And these are important issues to me. Now, what's the right wing talking about all day today? talking about in the Olympics, an Algerian boxer who beat the Italian boxer. And they're saying that that in Algeria, that this boxer was a trans boxer who beat the Italian female boxer, and that somehow the United States government should be involved in the Internet Boxing Olympics Commission to determine what the boxing rules are. And the people in Algeria, by the way, in Algeria, they like, we're saying Algeria is like supposed to be what, like a woke, like what are they even arguing with Algeria?
I honestly,
and
I have no idea. I have no
but
idea.
here's my point though, Cohen. My point is that they will seize an issue like that, and they will talk about it the whole day, and then they'll show the image of the Italian female boxer losing, and then they'll try to insinuate to the American population that somehow this should be the role of the presidency to get involved in a boxing match and how boxers are certified. It doesn't make any sense. But then you think about what they also talk about. What do they talk about all the time? The bathrooms, this person going into this bathroom. And so they bring up these issues because that frankly, I was teaching a class in law school as a professor, and there was all this effort to block a trans athlete from playing a sport I think it was in West Virginia, went all the way to the top court of West Virginia. Then I asked my class, I said, how many trans athletes do you think were in West Virginia that this case actually impacted, where you had 150 of the top lawyers on all different sides of political spectrums, probably hundreds of millions of dollars in legal fees? Cohen, what would your guess be? This whole case that worked its way up, how many athletes were they actually talking about where this was an issue? The answer was one. Yeah. They were talking about one person. And it's a long way of answering your question, but what this right-wing propaganda echo chamber wants to do is use hate and bullying and all of these things to distract people from the kitchen table type issues that actually impact their family because they don't have policies in place.
So one of the funniest things is when I saw the Republicans and I saw the Trump acolytes out there attacking, President Biden regarding this topic, it brought me right back to an issue that I dealt with for him many years ago. Also, as I was on the board, it was me, it was Trump, and Alan Weisselberg represented the board for the Miss Universe pageant. And there was a transgender contestant. I think her name was, her last name was Talikova. And they didn't want her competing because she was transgender. Well, Gloria Allred jumped in, and I had lunch with her and another gentleman that worked for her. And while she was on her way to California to do a press conference, attacking Donald Trump because they didn't want to do it, what we ultimately ended up doing while she was in the air is just deciding that we were going to follow, get a load of this, Ben, ready? We were going to follow the Olympic rules regarding transgender participation, which is that's what it says on your birth certificate, whether it's revised or not, that's your gender identity. And so we let her compete. She was competing for Canada. She never made it into the finals in order to go to the Miss Universe pageant. It was a local Canadian, competition, but we followed the Olympic rule. Now, all of a sudden, we're not following the Olympic rule. There's a new rule to follow. So when it benefits him, that's the rule we follow. When it doesn't benefit him, when we expand it in order to make it no rule. I mean, again, it's so typical Donald. For God's sakes, my friends, we need to educate. We need to educate MAGA. We need to educate those that, for whatever the reason might be, are still undecided. We have 94 days left before the election. There is no time to stop. We need to continuously keep educating them on the dangers of this man and the danger that he poses to America's democratic republic. Plain and simple.
Donald Trump's posting purportedly Vice President Kamala Harris's birth certificate right now. That's he's back to doing that. And you know, her dad's side of the family is Jamaican. Her mom's side is Indian. We did a little Venn diagram right there. That's Kamala Harris. The Venn diagram for Donald Trump right there is Trump is fraudster and rapist equals Donald Trump in the Venn diagram right there. Just a helpful graphic. And this whole idea that Donald Trump's now pushing that Vice President Kamala Harris is not black. I mean, this is what he's reposting. Not only does Kamala Harris' own birth certificate prove that she's lying about being black, but I mean, again, how is this the leader of a major political party in the United States of America? Then he has your buddy Alina Habba. I'm joking, of course. She spoke at the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania event. She's one of like the keynote speakers now. And here, let me show you what Alina Habba said yesterday. Here, play this clip.
I am a strong woman, a mom, a lawyer, and an American. And unlike you, Kamala, I know who my roots are. I know where I come from. And I don't play around with the Constitution.
It's like watching the Idiocracy movie. It's like watching it. I know
No, what makes it even worse.
Not sure. Did we lose Cohen there for a second? Cohen was going to say what makes it even worse there. But as I was saying, it to me is like watching Idiocracy. And I've seen some of the actors from Idiocracy who were recently interviewed saying, like, when they watched Hulk Hogan on stage at the Republican National Convention and Hulk Hogan was ripping off his shirt. I mean, the main speaker before Donald Trump at the Republican National Convention was Hulk Hogan, a former WWE wrestler who gets up on stage and he rips off his shirt and he goes, "I'm the Hulkster, and the Hulkster's telling you that if you don't vote for Donald Trump, the Hulkster's gonna beat you down," or something like that. I'm watching this and I'm like, what is happening to our what's just going on here? I'm just saying this is not normal, and there are people's freedoms and rights that are on the line, and this is what we are seeing. This is what's dominating the coverage of the Republican National Convention. And look, Michael Cohen read the transcript from part of that interview at the National Association of Black Journalists, but let me read you this. This is from Donald Trump's June 9th, 2024 speech. And we'll wait for Cohen to come back, but I'll read this to you just to hear the types of things that Donald Trump says. And I think when you see it in a transcript form, it kind of brings it home in a different way. Trump's giving a speech to the audience in Las Vegas, and he goes, "So I said, let me ask you a question." And he said, "Nobody ever asked this question, and it must be because of MIT, my relationship to MIT. Very smart." He goes, "I say, what would happen if the boat sank from its weight and you're in the boat and you have this tremendously powerful battery and the battery's now underwater and there's a shark that's approximately 10 yards over there?" By the way, a lot of shark attacks lately. Did you notice that? A lot of shark. I watched some guys justifying it today. Well, they weren't really that angry. They bit off the young lady's leg because of the fact that they were not hungry, but they misunderstood who she was. These people are cray. He said there's no problem with sharks. They just didn't really understand. A young woman swimming now really got decimated, and other people too. A lot of shark attacks. So I said, so there's a shark 10 years away from the boat, 10 yards away from the boat, 10 yards or here. Do I get electrocuted? If the boat is sinking, water goes over the battery. The boat is sinking. Do I stay on top of the boat and get electrocuted? Or do I jump over by the shark and not get electrocuted? Because I will tell you, he didn't know the answer. He said, nobody's ever asked me that question. I said, I think it's a good question. I think there's a lot of electric current coming through that water. But you know what I do? If there was a shark or you get electrocuted, I'll take electrocution every single time. I'm not going near the shark. This is the type of things that he's saying at his traveling fascist circus events that he calls rallies. And for far too long, the corporate media has normalized this. And fortunately, the Midas Mighty community, we've reclaimed our agency, we've reclaimed our power, and we've reclaimed what gets front page coverage in our media network. By our media network, I'm talking about you, the Beatdown Brigaders, the Midas Mighty, the Legal AFers. We program this now together. We decide what's on the front page. And what's on the front page is our desire to protect and defend our democracy, our freedoms, and our rights, and to call out this behavior by Donald Trump and Shady Vance and MAGA Mike Johnson and all these people who want to take away our freedoms. The corporate media may go along with their hustle to try to distract us from the facts and the truth and the evidence, but we won't be distracted here on the Midas Touch Network on Political Beatdown. That's why, according to Jeremy, the latest view count for 48 hours is actually 25,750,000 views over the past 48 hours. Again, beating Fox, CNN, and MSNBC. And that's thanks to you. I think Cohen's having potentially some connections issues, so I will give the two-finger salute on his behalf. The two-finger salute goes to Donald Trump and Shady Vance, especially Donald Trump for what he did in the National Association of Black Journalists. His behavior there was abhorrent. It was disqualifying. And for that, Donald Trump, I give you the two-finger salute. I want to remind everybody about Mea Culpa. Make sure you subscribe to the Mea Culpa podcast. It's the blue one, not the red one. So when you search on audio podcasts for Mea Culpa, make sure you subscribe to the blue one. Also, check out store.midastouch.com for all the Midas merch. We've been selling a lot of Midas merch lately. 100% union made, 100% made in the United States. Yeah, this stuff has been flying off the shelves. So go check it out, store.midastouch.com. Don't get the imposter stuff. Get the real stuff again, because it's union made and made in the U.S. Store.midastouch.com. Some great gear right there. Also, patreon.com/political beatdown. That's one of the ways you could help support the growth of this platform. And Michael Cohen and I will schedule another meeting, a Zoom meeting, where you can meet Michael Cohen on that Patreon. And so we don't have outside investors, so it's one of the ways to build this independent media platform. Patreon.com/political beatdown. Want to wish everybody an incredible weekend. We're hard at work here. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling optimistic. I'm feeling the momentum. If you want to help this network, one way to do that is just maybe over the next few days, tell other people about this network in your life. Maybe a neighbor, a coworker, the person delivering the mail, whoever. Just let people in your life know about this network, and let's keep growing it together. You can check out MidasTouch.com/newsletter as well. MidasTouch.com/newsletter. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Reminder, we do the live show with me and my brothers at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. We'll see you then. Shout out to the Beatdown Brigaders and shout out to the Midas Mighty.